may we go on and talk about your incredible journey from the very beginning?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Let's see, where to start. My background, I was raised in a pretty normal, average family, loving parents and brothers and sisters, and a very nice relationship to religion. And go on Sunday, and a belief that kind of sustained me through the week. So it was a very comfortable upbringing. And I, through my youth, began to look into some other ways of noticing about what happens in the world. And by that I mean crystals and pyramids and hands-on healing and spoon bending. And, you know, I was young and very interested in what is out there in this amazing world. And I have to tell you, I was probably the worst at any of those things of anyone in the groups that I attended or the small classes I went to. I couldn't do a thing. And I really think what was going on was my mind was in the way. And I believe many people discover that our mind can just run a number on us and get in our way so often in so many aspects of our life. And I have a tremendous fascination now as an adult with the mind and how it functions and the way it works to create our reality and the ways that we can begin to shift how our mind is operating and therefore change our reality. So I have a fascination with the role of the mind in our developing consciousness. And then there reaches a point in our development where the role of the mind is to step out of the way and allow us to be step forward then as the magnificent spiritual beings that we are. And by spiritual, what I mean is that those parts of us that are present beyond the three-dimensional world. And that's what I mean by spiritual. Those parts that are not the everyday 3D personality, ego, mind, survival, and instead it is the magnificent being that dwells inside of each and every one of us that is wise, profoundly wise, deeply connected to all of life, aligned eternally with our source, and forever receiving, always receiving information and guidance and support and direction from that source. So we have a mind, and then it steps aside, and then we move into this other magnificent way of being in the world. And so I have a fascination with how that happens and how to accelerate that process. And for me, I went through a great deal of reading in a wide variety of spiritual areas about the different religions and different beliefs, metaphysics, quantum physics, all kinds of things. And I really thought that I understood about life and how it worked, and thought I understood the answers to most of the questions about life and how it works. And very soon I realized that I really didn't know a thing about it, and all I really had was everyone else's ideas about how it works. Everyone I had read in the books or seen on videos or on television, gone to workshops, and it was kind of a accepting or a surrendering to those concepts because they made sense to me. They seemed to match my mental need for proof and facts and validity and sequence and all of those mind kinds of things. So they made sense to me. And I began, probably 20 years ago or so, two things that transformed my life. The first was I took on a discipline called the prayer of the heart, or praying without ceasing. And that was a repetitive prayer that said with each and every breath, inhale and exhale, every moment I was awake. And of course that is a huge challenge to do because we have a mind, and the mind wants to think about the past, it wants to think about the future, it wants to plan and make lists and organize and focus and all of those kinds of things. And of course, if I'm repeating this prayer, And the piece that was required was repeat the prayer with the attention, your mind, your attention, focused in your heart. So there was no time left for the mind to do its usual ramblings and lectures and conversations, internal conversations and planning, that sort of thing. And that began to open my heart in just profound ways that I had never before experienced. And I could begin to really feel some wonderful, wonderful body sensations of deep divine love flowing through. And because of that deep connection, that strong connection with the divine, I made a special request of God, of Source, one night. And my request was, I don't care what it takes. I don't care what you have to do. I want to be moved to the next levels of consciousness and of connection. And do it, and do whatever you have to do to see that that happens. And I felt very comfortable making that request because I had this love current flowing through me that I knew I was fine no matter what happened to me in life. I knew I would be fine. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if I died. I mean, nothing mattered. I knew I was fine. And because of that, I made this request. And a few weeks later, my request was answered in ways I had never predicted. And I went through a home invasion, which was very traumatic. And there's probably very little reason that I survived any of that, except that perhaps it was divinely ordained, for which I am grateful. And as I was recovering from that, I realized immediately.
You had a shooting.
Correct.
Shot.
Correct. That's correct. Someone came into my home and murdered the person I was there with and shot me, leaving us both for dead. And that was a real wake-up call. I mean, that was a sudden transformation of my belief system, because the next day I realized that I didn't know anything about life. I didn't know why I wasn't dead. I didn't know why I was alive. I didn't know how I had survived, or who I would be with having gone through that kind of an event. And what I did realize was that everything I had ever learned made no sense to me because it was someone else's idea. And all that remained inside of me were two beliefs. And I had the belief that everything in life comes as it's a benefit. It's intended for my benefit, everything in life. And so it's up to me to unfold this event into something wonderful for myself instead of what everyone was predicting would happen, which would be tremendous psychological damage. And it was up to me to make it into a gift. And the other belief that remained was a belief that inside of me and inside of everyone is a place that knows how to get us from where we are to where we want to be. And so with those two beliefs, and that's really about all that was left of my personality, of my belief systems, of my mind's ability to focus, were those two awarenesses. I began to search for and finally discover my guidance system. And what I've discovered is there is a similar guidance system for everyone. And so it's essential that we find our guidance, and it's internal. It's not pendulums and cards and coins and any of the other ways that we can do that are external. This is something that is going inside of us with our first breath, and it follows us all the way until our last breath. And once I found that guidance system, I followed it impeccably. People would say religiously. Whatever that guidance system was leading me to, I trusted it because I had no other source of direction. And it was what I chose to try to see if it would really take me back into wholeness. And that was all I was looking for, was wholeness.
This ends part 2 of Law of Attraction Talk Radio interview with Joe Dunning. Please go to part 3 or you can download the entire show by going to lawofattractiontools.com and click on the Listen Live button.